I put the song on.
Night of the week, go
There.
hanging out, just another night of the week. Hanging out, just another night of the week. Hanging out, just another night of the week. Hanging out, just another night of the
I like it. Let's just roll with it.
Oh, oops. Sorry. Sorry, everybody.
Gosh darn it. Hanging out, just another night of the week. Go to be more specific, it's a Tuesday Eve. Got some ideas that just might intrigue. You should come on by tonight. We're spilling the beans. Yes, we are
Oh, yeah.
spilling the beans. I should have adjusted this before. You got Slack?
Yep.
Boom. How you doing?
Did we do a intro video? Did that work?
No, because we
Switcher.
want to
Oh, that
stay away
comes
from
in-
the switcher and the
Oh, okay. That needs a switcher.
AV
Gotcha.
nightmare that we had last week. So we will get to some fun switching once we get a better switcher. But for
Yeah.
now, plain Jane.
Switching it up.
Lesson learned: no $10 Amazon switchers to run your podcast.
Don't do it. But still, we have a pretty fun show. Last week we discussed the shirts, Kaylee's shirts,
Mm-hmm.
and a
Just-
DIY form of making your own shirt.
One-offs, pretty cool.
Yeah, really cool. And that got
Jurassic Dog. That's
Oh
one.
yeah, this is my one-off. Yeah.
John's got a Jurassic dog. That's his dog. Abel, that is, has his dog on the shirt there.
Jurassic Dog.
Jurassic dog, lovely.
It's my work shirt.
It's really cool. And with that, we started talking about all kinds of fun things, bands and fun band names. And
Oh yeah, I did you guys read the new one?
yeah, can you say it again?
The sweatpants. All comfort, no style. That's their slogan.
That's pretty good. For some reason, when I left for work, I thought you had said, because Abel had just said that to me on my way out, and I thought I was saying to myself, all comfort, no sweat, or all sweat, no comfort, all sweat, no style. I was going back and forth.
So like I just see like these like blurbs from like some sort of like media outlet, like Rolling Stone says, I've never seen a band with absolutely no style. You know, like
Right.
like,
Yeah,
just like blurbs like that.
with
like,
such little style.
it's unbelievable.
Yeah, yeah. A band that really just simply doesn't care. Like it's not it's not the style of not caring. They
Yeah.
really just don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. So that was a really fun discussion. And so that brings us still, though, we're on this topic of DIY. So bringing us back, and we had discussed forms like ways of tracing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how did you trace those like handmade pieces on you didn't trace, right? You just drew freehand onto that shirt.
For the circles, I traced like a candle or
Oh,
something.
cool. So that was like
and-
literally tracing like an object. And
Mhm.
so an idea that we had, which goes back a few more episodes, was that little projector stand piece that I made, which projects downward onto material, and then you can trace over whatever you have going through that projector, right?
Mhm.
So for the shirts, that'd be a great idea. If you want to make your own shirt, and it use the paints, like the special paints for fabric,
Yeah.
and whatever you want to trace it, but you can plop that projector right onto the shirt, the projected image. And then we were talking about projecting a few episodes, maybe our first episode, projecting onto the wall and getting like, I'd seen, I think, Iron Man. Someone did a really cool mural of Iron Man, or of like a whole cell or something like that, and it was really, really neat. So with that in mind, Abel said, why not like put a comic book on the wall,
Yeah.
Mm.
right?
Yeah, I had been I actually kind of had that thought a long time ago and then kind of forgot about it, and that kind of jogged my memory about that. So I remember a long time ago I was at a flea market. And I think it was with Aaron, and I I found these map books. So they used to make these map books, and they were huge. They were like the size of posters, like like full size posters.
Mm-hmm.
And they on the outside they were very, very sturdy.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not exactly sure what they were made of. They were probably made of like maybe even like a really thin wood wrapped in like tweed.
Whoa. Okay.
And then you would open it up and it would have like really large maps inside. So imagine a book that's the size of a poster that you open up and it has pages in it, and
Mhm.
you're looking through this map. And I just thought, like, wouldn't it be cool to have a comic book that you hung on your wall? Because these things folded up flat. They folded up like this, like completely flat
After all the pages are
after
closed?
all the pages are
Wow.
closed.
Okay.
So imagine if we could hang it on the wall and you would have the cover of the comic on the wall, which is a great piece, to begin with.
Yeah.
But then the fact that you could actually open this thing
Right.
and you could flip through the pages right off the wall
Yeah.
and then close it. I just thought it would be like really cool. It would be like, you wouldn't have a massive collection of these, unless you have a really big space, but your favorite comics, you could potentially have on the wall if you wanted to go the route of like, using already what's popular comics that are popular or whatever.
Mhm.
But you could also put your own
Yeah.
comics
Yeah.
on these. And then I started thinking like, well, how could these be made? Because generally the paper that comes with it is going to need it's a little too brittle because they're very old, so the paper is quite brittle. And then I was thinking, like, I think a good way to do it is with vinyl. Have you ever seen like adhesive vinyl, like the rolls of adhesive vinyl?
Yeah.
Like you can get them like in a Michaels or something. You get small rolls and they run them through those Cricut machines.
Mm-hmm.
But you can buy those like on really big rolls. You can buy 24-inch rolls of these things.
What the heck's a Cricut machine?
Cricut machine is like a die cutting machine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Alright.
I don't even know if it's Cricut or Cricut. I hear it pronounced differently all the time, but I think they took on the name Cricut because that's how people were pronouncing it. But
Mm-hmm.
there's like the Silhouette machines or whatever. They're
Got
like,
it.
but anyway, if you were to cut adhesive vinyl to the size of the map, you could then print on it. So the thought would be like screen printing on it.
Mhm.
So you would screen print each part of. Obviously, this is going to be a lot of work.
I was gonna say that.
Yeah.
And expense? Question mark? Yeah.
Mhm.
Right.
So actually, the interesting thing is it wouldn't be that expensive. So you
We're
could,
talking like a full issue too, right? Like comic.
yeah.
Okay.
So the rolls that they come in like you can get them in 50-foot rolls. You can get them in 150-foot rolls. Whenever I've gotten them, I've gotten them in 150-foot rolls. So that would be more than enough to do multiple of them.
Mm.
And these would be probably high-priced items if you were going to sell them because they'd be a lot of work. And you could potentially start with a comic in black and white because you can get them. The other thing that's interesting about them is they're very high gloss.
Okay. So they're shiny.
They're shiny, and you can get white in really high gloss. It almost looks like high quality photo paper.
Mm-hmm.
So you could print on that, have a lot of pop, and then if you really wanted to do like some sort of full color or even like some color,
Right.
you could do it. So yeah, it'd be like a screen printed comic that you could hang on your wall that would be the size of basically a poster that you could thumb through right off your wall, which I thought would be pretty cool.
That's perfect. Yeah, that's neat. And like you said, there's a lot of work involved in that.
Yeah,
right.
High priced items. For
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, high. And so, but what if I was saying, I don't know if y'all remember, but I used to go to Newberry Comics and look at their post, or Hot Topic even, or wherever.
Yeah.
FYE.
Mm-hmm.
Showing my age, maybe.
Strawberries.
Strawberries.
Sam Goody.
Oh, wow.
How far back can we go?
Oh my goodness. But still, like as a kid, especially looking through those, I want to call them like turnstiles, or would it be considered a turnstile?
It's basically like,
what's the name, the actual name? So those and what I'm talking about are those posters that you'd flip through.
Yeah, right.
Band posters, movie posters.
I'm sure that to me, what it looks like is you have a bunch of frames, like normal poster frames, and what they're connected to is just a
A bunch of
piece of
hinges.
hardware. Like I think like that piece of hardware that holds them up
Yeah.
has many purposes that it just happens to work for
Oh, it's
that.
called a pivot hanger.
A pivot
Pivot
hanger for
hanger.
those who are
Yeah.
curious. So those things that you'd go, usually oddly too, is like in the back of the store.
Yeah.
Mhm.
These posters, they were like in the back of the store, but and so you'd have the pivot hanger there, I guess it's called, that piece that you'd flip through, like these
Yeah.
huge posters, wall posters, and underneath you'd have the rolled up posters, and each piece would have a name and or a number, and
Like
you'd
some
go
sort
to
of code. Yeah.
yeah, and you'd go to it. And so I was thinking with your idea with that is that was the first thing that came to mind.
Mm,
And that's pretty cool, you know. The idea of just having one would be cool,
mm,
so I could just put posters up and people can flick through it. But then, especially as an artist,
Mm.
like if you could,
Print
Kaylee,
and
take
stuff.
some of your art and then I don't know if it's in the shot. It is, yeah. So folks that are seeing, you can see a bunch of. We actually have an even larger mural on this wall to our left,
Mhm.
behind Kaylee, of all of her paintings and other paintings. So what if you could take that, you know what I mean, print it to the right size and put it to that, what's it called?
Pivot hanger.
Pivot hanger. Or
Mhm.
just simply make posters and just put it into those sleeves,
Yeah.
and then you have something. And so with Abel talking about, you know, having comics on your wall, I was like, oh, that's so it kind of met his idea with that map, you know, idea. And but then we were thinking, have you ever seen those pivot hangers? Have you ever seen those closed all the way? Right? And the answer is no. There's so
No.
many and it's so thick, each piece, which is
'Cause then
where
the plastic too, like,
Mm.
bounces off of, like, the frame around it.
exactly, which is where John's idea comes in, which is really cool. And so what's the frame that's holding, how like sturdy would this be? Are those maps, those like map structures that
So
you were talking
definitely
about?
the front and the back are extremely sturdy.
Right.
I want to say they're probably not wood,
Yep. Right.
but they are some sort of composite that like I
so it won't
mean,
bend when you open it.
Right.
Like it's and folks, imagine this big comic on the wall, and you could just, and it's huge.
so I would say it's comparable to like what a guitar case is made out of, like a tweed
Whoa,
guitar
okay,
case. It's
yeah.
about that.
So as long as it doesn't
sturdy.
get wet.
Yeah, I think the issue you could potentially, maybe not, but could potentially run into is the pages would have to be reinforced in some way.
Right.
In particular, I guess we wouldn't know unless we actually got one. I would say definitely need to reinforce the binding of the pages and sort of where the page connects to the binding because like your center of gravity is changing, right? When you would normally open these, they would be open like either on a flat table or like on an easel. So
Mhm.
like the weight, but now if they're opening up from the top,
They're gonna dog ear. Yeah.
the weight is kind of pulling them down.
You'd have to hold it open, which is where I liked the idea of the pivot hanger.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know, holding them up as
Yeah.
you go through them. And so then, were you gonna say something, Kaylee?
No, go ahead.
Oh, I didn't know if you had a thought or if you found something.
Oh, I was just looking. So I went in a little rabbit hole from the pivot hangers. And what about like the old like Rolodexes? Like it's like a mini version of
Whoa.
that.
Mm.
And you could have like a comic like in that, and you can flip through it, and it kind of closes a bit more, you know.
What do you mean when you say Rolodexes? Do you mean like the
The address
flippy?
books?
Oh,
yeah, those little address books. So
Yeah,
instead
but
of,
they have like sideways ones too that
Whoa,
like essentially is like a
that's
mini
cool.
version of that kind
It's
of
almost like a book
idea.
holder, kind of what we're getting to with that too.
Yeah.
But that's really neat. That's actually really a good idea. Like for like a mini comic, you see these like bootleg kind of micro comics. Like what if you had them in this cool, if it's cheap enough to maybe print or 3D print. But also, so with all this weight and with that idea that John's talking about, it just the work that goes into it. Some of this stuff, the work might not be worth any kind of mass production, but so we are discussing DIY, but also we went on to the idea of printing on thin metal sheets.
Yeah. So that, you know,
which you see a lot more of now. You like look at this, it pops a bit when you have this
Yeah.
glossy print onto a metal sheet of, you know, some fan art of something.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that was kind of a thought because we were thinking of like what's like really flat and sturdy. Like
Right.
the pivot, what is it, pivot table, whatever it
Pivot
is?
hang-
pivot
hanger.
Yeah.
So that's thick, it's bulky. It could look cool in a corner,
Mm-hmm.
Yes, right.
but
right.
it is
It
like
doesn't close like a book.
it doesn't close like a book.
You wanna see the front.
This
Yeah.
would just look like you had a piece of art of a comic book cover on the wall.
Yeah.
But then it just so happens to open up as well, and you can actually read the whole comic.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be
so
pretty easy to do with metal.
I honestly
3
think
rings, and you can make it like an actual.
so. Yeah, my
Binder.
thinking was
right.
like you might not even need to. So we were thinking about sheet metal, right?
Yes.
If we could do it
Yeah.
on sheet metal,
Yep.
and that is definitely something. It would raise the cost even more.
You think so? Yeah.
Yeah, because you wouldn't be able to. You'd have to have them cut to size. You would have to have them professionally cut, because if you try to cut them yourself, or I mean, you could if you got the gear to do it,
Yeah.
but you're going to need 16 pages of the sheet metal that's cut perfectly to size and doesn't cut people, so it needs to be
Round edged
Round-
off. Yeah.
edged off. Like if you're doing that yourself, that's a lot of work. And if you're paying to do it, it's probably going to cost a lot of money.
Yeah, right.
But it is an option.
That is really cool though, that
But-
idea of having that.
You know, I do wonder, right, like all the weight can be supported with something at the top of the page, right? Because your center,
Like a guide.
like,
almost.
yeah, like, so imagine a page, and imagine, say, a piece of sheet metal, but it's just at the top of the page and it connects to the binding.
Mhm.
So that, because that's your point of where it would like tear.
So all you would need is something to keep it stabilized against the wall, each piece, right?
So I would imagine that the way you would hang it would be intertwined. You'd hang it from the binding on the wall, and that would be intertwined into, say, like some sort of like L flat. Have you ever seen like a flat L bracket?
Yeah.
They use them
Yeah.
something like that, where that could hold the page at just at the top. So
Yeah,
it's much
right.
thinner, and then you can also put that weight right there.
Right.
And so I think at that point, you know, it's going to be okay,
yeah. Yeah.
you know? So it would cut down a lot on costs, and it wouldn't surprise me if you could actually find L brackets that were just that size.
Right.
You know, you think of like, you know, workshop type cabinet, because those are like cabinet reinforcement L brackets or whatever. You think of like larger shops that would use something like that.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, look at the door hinges right there.
Yeah. Right.
You know,
They're big.
imagine, yeah, but imagine like something longer like that, and that thing even turns,
Yeah. Right. Right.
right?
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, I think that like figuring it out, I don't think would be crazy hard. I think it's definitely doable, and I think that if you're kind of smart about it and trying to be as minimalistic as possible, like
Mhm.
use as little materials as possible,
Yeah. Right.
yeah, I think you could do it, and it would be fairly affordable to manufacture it. And then, like, you know, we talked about like, well, if you're screen printing, basically you're screen printing, you know, 16, because there's 16 pages in a comic, right? You're screen printing 16 posters.
Well,
In fact,
both sides.
yeah, is it 16 pages
I was just
front
wondering.
and back,
It's
or
not
is it,
8 pages.
No, it's 16
so
pages.
it's 20. So it's 30.
but you wouldn't be doing ads and stuff. So I feel like it's going to
32.
hit somewhere around 12, right?
Right.
So yeah, you'd be screen printing front and back, you know, 24 things. But if you think about it in a manufacturing way, if you say I'm going to make 100 of these, then each page you can print 100 of them all at once, which in
Right.
screen printing, like that's where you save your money.
Right.
And then so you do right off the bat, you rip 100 of the cover, then you rip 100 of the whatever.
hmm
And because they're all on adhesive and because you're using a flat surface, it would be good. Now, the challenge, I think the biggest challenge of this would be laying the vinyl down when it's time to stick it onto the thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That would be the biggest challenge.
Yeah. I mean, again, I go back to the pivot hanger just because I like the idea where you can just print on paper or poster and just slide it in.
Yeah.
And then you can even change it anytime you want.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Whereas there's some kind of permanence that's placed to this idea. But if you're an artist and you have a good little, like, bootleg or not even bootleg, but like, mini comic or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
this might be a cool medium, like a medium that, I mean, I've never seen like a big comic book
On a wall. No.
That's such a cool idea, I think. And even if it's, I mean, and even if you're not into comic books, just the idea of having this display and bringing back that kind of childhood thing, like as an adult, I can't remember the last time I looked at one of those pivot hangers. I can't remember the last time I looked at one. And I wonder, I'd be curious to look it up on eBay.
I think posters aren't really a thing too
They had
much
it in
anymore.
your ear. Remember? Well, at least on the Main Street one, in the back corner.
In the back corner,
Yeah.
right? I don't know why they're always in the back. As if the poster is the last thing you're going to look at.
I wonder, are posters like a thing anymore? Like do kids hang posters? Like I feel like, growing up in like the 90s and early 2000s, they were like, your room was covered with them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely.
But I feel like that might not be the case anymore.
Well, if you can get them, you can just get them on Amazon as well. Like the opportunity to customize them even online.
Yeah.
I mean, they're I've gotten so many things.
I do wonder,
Yeah.
like, how much does it actually cost to have a poster printed or to have a bunch of posters?
Oh, to call. I've done
What's
it. That's
that?
like my favorite like pieces out of comic books and stuff like that. I don't know how legal it is.
Where
they're
are
not here. They're actually, they litter my apartment. My apartment is just littered with my favorite like variant covers of comics. Not even comics though, like books that I really liked that were sci-fi that just had beautiful art on the covers.
Mhm.
The artist from there, the original artwork from there. So I don't actually even know how legal it is that I got this done. But I don't think they, like, the idea of it is that it's not mass produced. They are making a copy of whatever JPEG you send them. If dimensions fit and everything, no questions asked. They just send you. I mean, I only got one copy of everything that I asked them to print for me. But I would get poster size, high resolution. If you can find it on Google Images.
I'm sure you could find, especially of comics, you can find very high resolution.
Oh, well, that, and you can find ways to
buy them digitally.
Exactly. Yeah, you can buy them at the optimal resolution, probably. I mean, most of those are some form, I think, I could be wrong, but like some form of PDF almost. You know what I mean? So res for that, very, very photograph friendly. So I mean, the idea there with that turnstile type, that pivot hanger, and I need to count how many times I say pivot hanger because I've never known the name of that. I wanted to call it a turnstile.
They're expensive too.
Really?
They go for like,
hey,
2, 3,
3,000.
100.
Yeah, and the thing with
terrible.
those that bothers me a
Lot of
little bit
hardware.
is
Well, they don't close all the way.
there's a lot of plastic. There's a lot of
yeah.
These ones are just like metal, like more so for like big.
And there is no plastic, right? Like it's just,
These are just like metal bracket.
Well, you need
ones.
plastic to see through it, right? Every single
Yeah.
one has plastic in front of it.
I have, yeah, that's true. That's true. I feel
there's a lot of well, first off, if you're trying to sell them from the mindset of like an artist, like something like that is going to, obviously you're not going to ship something like that, unless it's like in a box where you have to assemble the thing,
right?
But I think a good repurpose of them, and like you were saying, these things used to be in every store, and now, like, I mean, you never see them. I'm sure there's a plethora of them kicking around, stores that have gone out of business. I'm sure there's so many of them that you could get. And you know what else would be cool? I was just thinking this. I looked at Homer over there and I was like, it'd be cool if you could do like frames from like movies or frames from like TV shows, There he is.
That would be cool.
So like a Simpsons episode that you really love, you could throw frames inside that book. And some of those books were thick. Some of those books had like, oh man, if I had to guess, like there's probably 30 pages or so
Right.
in some of those books,
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, I bet there's a lot of those pivot hanger things kicking around.
I mean, the first place I think of is eBay, but Kaylee just said they're probably expensive on eBay, but 200 to 300 is a lot.
And those aren't the exact same design. I saw like a mini one on Amazon that's for like letter size paper,
Okay.
like classic letter paper. That's like $50.
Mm.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, that's
And
an
that's called a wall-mounted reference system, not a pivot hanger.
reference system. I mean, it seems like something actually I've seen in doctors' offices.
Yeah.
They have those hard with something that you can actually I think they would draw on or not draw, but they would write on
Mm.
With whiteout marker, like dry erase marker. There's got to be something, but the idea also, I'm like in love with that idea of seeing it big. You know what I
Just
mean?
huge.
Kids will read it, but also like if you're not using, if it's of your own art too, I really like
Like
the
a
idea.
portfolio you can have on the wall.
I mean, a huge portfolio, you
Yeah.
know, and going through one of those, whether
Yeah.
nefarious or not, websites to just print a nice high res gloss. They give you the option of gloss, matte, all this stuff. And then just put your own stuff in that. And you could even, if you have your own printer, all the more power to you in regards to that. Because then you can just print your own and just replace your posters with anything you want, which is really neat.
You know what I thought of with your Kaylee, with your Rolodex idea? Imagine if there was some way to sort of motorize it, and you could make like a flip book with it, so that if you press the button, it would flip them all. Because you can fit a lot of papers in there.
Yeah.
But you could like motorize that thing, I'm sure. Just some sort of spinning wheel that is connected to the papers that flip the pages for you. And you could make like a little, like flip frame thing.
That's good. And you'd
like
have
a
to
flip book.
So, right. So in
Yeah.
a flip book, how many pages would you say are in a flip book?
Probably a decent amount, but those Rolodexes can fit a lot.
They hold up to like 300, 400.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That is a really cool idea. Yeah, I don't know. You need something to catch every single piece and
Yeah.
a
But
gear
aren't
Like a
they?
motor that would
Don't they
spin.
have them that aren't they connected like a Rolodex or are they just connected with rings?
I think rings
Rings,
traditionally.
but some of them are on like
Don't they have little tracks that you can fit the pages in on some of them?
some of them are, and then some of them are on like a cylinder. I feel like that.
Yes,
you
yeah.
know, instead of like the ring.
It almost like
Yeah.
hangs, right? And you just like kind of
Yeah.
flip through it.
Yeah.
I mean, it goes to show also how I mean, I don't think I've ever used a Rolodex. I think I just remember seeing Rolodexes used by
Yeah,
my
or
old
even
man.
just the concept of a Rolodex would be a great flip book thing, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Just like just how it works. If you could I would imagine that like
if it's comic book form, you would be only getting one side of the page, so you would need double.
it probably wouldn't be a comic because in general Rolodexes are movie. They're widescreen, right? So like a Rolodex
Exactly,
is like this.
right.
Like
It's
index
not
card,
tall. It's
It'd be an
wide.
interest. Yeah, right.
Right. So I mean, it could be like panels.
Yeah, right.
Could be
right.
like
That's
panels.
true too.
Yeah.
That'd be kind of cool, like selling if you just did like 4-panel comics.
Yeah.
And just selling old Rolodexes that you buy for $5 on eBay.
You read the comic like that.
And you read the comic like that.
Yeah.
And so if you have just mass produced numbers of let's say 30, sell them for 30.
Oh, Kathleen said about the pivoting things, kind of like how they hang rugs to display them. It's like flipping through a rug book.
Yep.
They're huge and gigantic.
Oh,
You probably feel like you're in the comic, maybe
Yep.
like printing on a fabric.
Kathleen, good
That's-
call.
that's- yeah,
Very
that's
good.
right.
That's
That is true.
exactly right. And those are huge.
Yeah, they are.
Those are
huge.
big. And all it is the L of the frame, because you don't necessarily need, I guess, for concern of tear of what depending on the material, but you just need, like you said, the wall
Yeah.
and the top.
Yeah.
So nice. That's good.
Yeah. I did so fairly recently there was this there's this comic shop in town that was fairly new and I think they moved. But I was in there and I found so my personal favorite comic ever and like just a huge inspiration for me was the American Splendor comics.
Mhm.
Well, when they came out with the movie, they released sort of this like companion comic, but it was like it wasn't a comic, it was a book. Though it had like all the comics in it.
Mhm.
It just had the pages like think like an omnibus.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, but it was definitely printed more like a book
Mhm.
in the sense that like because they were black and white comics. So it didn't feel like a comic, it felt like a book.
Right.
You know, I don't know how
Right.
else to describe it, but it was something you would find like in Barnes and Nobles or whatever.
Yeah.
So I found that inside the store. So this thing doesn't have a lot of value. Like the comic books have a lot of value. But these things were like mass produced with a movie.
Mhm.
So they're not hard to find. They're, you know, I think I paid $3 for it and you could find them pretty often. But they're big because they're book size. They're like this, right? So I was like, if I find another one of these, which I looked on eBay and they're dirt cheap, they're like $5. I could rip all the pages out and I could put them on the wall. And I thought about that would be a cool thing too, you know, and you could do them even just like a long wraparound or something.
Yeah.
Mm.
Oh, that would be neat.
because
Yeah.
you could kind of read the comics on the wall.
Mhm.
I love the idea of reading comics on the wall because if you think of like a gallery, like if you go to an art gallery or something, like generally you walk up to a painting and you're looking at it for quite some time trying to understand it, but you could do the same thing with something you read, right? And you could do the same thing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I just think a comic could really be perfect for being on a wall.
We
That
did
would be
see
cool, like a whole comic gallery.
Just
with
Yeah.
them
to
all
walk
over.
around and read it.
Yeah.
And even as like I love me personally, why I love having art on my wall is because it's a great way to clear your head.
Mhm.
So like when you're working on something and like I take breaks fairly often. And as opposed to like, you know, opening up my phone and, you know, watching something stupid or looking at something
The
stupid.
kids call it death scrolls nowadays.
Death scrolls.
Yeah, it's
Why is
death
that?
scroll because you're scrolling and you're just
Forever,
like,
and then you wake up.
Yeah, you're like
Yeah.
a zombie.
Yeah.
I think that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
They're
Okay.
calling it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it makes sense because you just zonk out, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And you just like you're
It's
no
like
longer.
it's a hole, right?
Yeah.
A black hole.
Yeah.
So
and
instead
you're
of doing that, you just
I just walk over to my art wall because I have
Mhm.
one wall that just is full of art. And it also has like everything. It's like a really tall wall. And then on my sides, I got my records all showing, and I got everything that I just like to look at, that I just get inspiration from.
yeah.
And there's comic books on the wall too.
Yep.
And I'll
Action
just walk,
figures.
Yeah.
We got our action figures all over the place. Yeah.
and I'll just walk over to this wall, and I'll just be able to just look at it,
Mm-hmm.
and it clears your head.
Well, it's a moment of meditation.
Yeah,
That's what that is.
yeah.
That's what you're doing in that moment. That's really good.
But a comic on the wall kind of does that for you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
As opposed to like having to go find the book,
Mm-hmm.
thumb through your, you know,
Yeah.
your box of comics or whatever. It's just right there. You just walk over to it and you can just like, oh, I love this book.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And you can change the idea if you can change those things. You know what I mean? If you can change what's on there, all the better.
Yeah.
That's a really nice thing. And that moment of contemplation, I think that's important.
Yeah.
Again, instead of going directly to your phone. It's funny, I had something to say, but I forgot it. And it was an idea, and that brings me slightly to this idea, because we're talking about, especially now that you're talking about your space, your moment of contemplation, how to come up with ideas. Maybe you're doing something on your own, maybe you're working. Write stuff down. Just always write things down, because Kaylee, last week we had, we discussed, what are we going to talk about the next week, whatever else.
But then you said, okay, we got the next 2 weeks. We're going to do this. We're going to do wall comics, and then
something else.
poof, I don't know.
And that's what, Abel had said that.
Mhm.
And then I think it was said out loud, like, let's send it to our group chat, which is where we put our ideas down. We said, oh no, that's so good, we don't have to, we won't be able to, we'll remember it. And here we are. And that happens so often. I hear like this, like, I mean, happily, you know, you come up with other ideas or it comes back to you, but still, at least for me, it happens all the time. You know, you have this idea, it's great talking with people, and collectively even you can just forget what you said. Record it. Just always record everything. And
Write it down.
75% of it might be just garbage, you know, but at least you recorded that one thing that could be gold, you know, that you think is gold, something that's fun, something that you really appreciate. It goes into like the idea of like recording your dreams. Some people get the best inspiration from starting to record their dreams just because they want to, you know, look back on them and see what's up. So write everything down, you know.
So I have a thing I do. It's a little wacky because it's a little wacky, but I buy these posters off of Amazon, and they're whiteboard posters, and they're graph paper, and they're massive. They're like absolutely massive. If I had to guess, I would say they're like 5 feet by 5 feet.
Okay.
And I hang them on the wall. And you can walk over to them and you can just write. And I put them in like the way my studio's set up, because I have a few different things I do. There's one in every station.
Oh, that's smart.
And you can walk over to it and you can write on them.
Wow.
Right now I have it on like a wheelie.
And it's a dry erase type? Yeah.
Dry erase, so you can wipe it off. Right now it's on like one of those things you gave me.
Yes.
The wheelie.
Those rolling office
things.
type
Oh,
audio
so I
audio
roll
baffles.
it all around. But yeah, like there's something I've always had a thing for like writing on my walls. I don't know if you remember, like I used to draw like
you had really cool drawings on your walls.
on my wall, like comic book characters and stuff. I don't know why
I think you had Wolverine on there.
Yeah, I had a big picture of Wolverine that I drew on there.
That was awesome.
Yeah. I still don't know how I did that, because it's really hard to see people who draw on walls. They must like see things different, because like you can't look at the whole picture. You know what I mean? It's very hard to imagine how you can draw something when you can't like really see the whole picture in your vision. You know, I struggled with it.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Though I haven't tried it, but I mean, yeah,
getting proportions right is extremely difficult.
As it is, like on paper.
Even on paper,
yeah.
And you can see the whole thing. You can reference like, this is a guy, you know, this is a building, you know, he shouldn't be the same size. You know what I mean? Like you can see that, but when you're like doing a mural, like you get right up there and you're like, you're seeing very small portion of the image. But
that's wild.
I always write on the wall on those graph paper things, especially when like some of the things that I make are a bit experimental, where I need to like remember certain notes or certain things, because I'll take a break. Let's say I won't do something for a month, and then I'll go back to it and do it. I need to remember all those little things I did to get specific results. You know what I mean? And they're right there in front of you, because like just the act of like even having to open it up on your phone or whatever can be exhausting. Look it up in a notebook. That's the worst thing, because you know, like I have like so many like notebooks full of these notes that I mean, it would take me a whole day to find something, you know? But
still you're recording everything, you know. Do what you can. And you know, it's to say we are experts at ideas. The whole show is about ideas, but the idea of that is everyone's an expert with ideas. That's what we do. That's what humans do. Everything is our ideas. So, you know, and it's a channel, like channeling your ideas and creative or whatever. It's a good way to, if you don't consider yourself an artist, well, you're just an idea away.
Yeah,
right.
I think everyone that doesn't have some sort of creative outlet is really hindering a portion of who they are. You know what I mean? Like I feel like creative outlets can really make you happy.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't have to be anything crazy. It
Mm.
could be anything from gardening to illustrating to anything.
Mm.
But I think that that's a really important key to like just being happy
Yeah.
is
Yep.
being expressive.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
In a creative way, in particular. Yeah, I think everyone should do it in some capacity.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
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 I think so too. I think that's a good. How are we doing on time there?
We're just at 40 minutes.
40
just
minutes. I did just have an idea. You talking about the turnstile, us talking about ideas, and I don't need to write it down because we're recording it onto this podcast,
Mhm.
and other people can help me remember. Maybe someone else can write it down. But and this is kind of silly, but you were talking about the turnstile going, and you seeing it like a flip book. So when you flip it fast, you see an animated something come to life, right? That idea is basically film, right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
so my thought was, and I don't think this would work because you're using the same 4 blades all the time, but a fan, if you put stickers on a fan, and when it goes fast enough, it actually makes an image.
Oh yeah, that's definitely doable. So like they do that on records.
Cool.
So like have you ever seen those records that they say they're like holographic?
Yeah.
So they'll put carvings into the it's in between the lock groove and the end of the song. So you know how you have that like you have the grooves that go all the way down, then you have that dark plastic before it hits the label.
Yeah.
There's like a section there. So that's all unused minutes.
Hmm.
So if you have unused minutes on a record, they can carve things in it. And because, you know, when they say 33 RPM, that's what they mean. It's going at 33 RPM. And because they can tell you exactly how fast that's going perfectly.
Yeah.
And when you figure that out, you're able to create images. So like you'll actually see when it's spinning, if you have one of those designs in there, it actually lift off and almost look like a hologram coming off of the record.
That's neat.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
really wacky. But
So
yeah, it would work
in a more simple way, yeah, on a fan, you know,
It would
like
work on a
even if
fan,
you just
yeah.
put a sticker there. And so when it's going around, if you format it perfectly so each sticker is on the right angle of each blade, when it goes around at full, your
you
sticker
would see an
sticks out.
image.
You know what I
You
mean?
would see an image coming through the fan.
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
That's kind of a cool thing. So
That would be really cool.
maybe something for next week. We can talk about motion in art.
Mhm.
We'll
you know.
need a physics expert, I think, to come.
Well, I
figure
can
it out.
brush up and do my best.
We'll watch some YouTube videos and see if we can figure it out.
Well,
But,
cool. Let's see how. So yeah, I think it's good
Yeah.
time to wrap it up.
Yeah.
We
Wall
got the
comments.
song ready.
I do plan. I'm definitely going to do it.
Yeah,
So
let's try
at
something.
some point, I will.
I
we
might
can all work on it.
Yeah, I might waste money, or actually, you know, maybe even we can just have a little project and look at how one of those things works.
Yeah.
And build one. You know, we
Yeah.
can look at the rug things that Kaylee. Maybe
Yeah.
those are cheaper than we think.
Oh, that Kathleen mentioned?
Oh, that Kathleen mentioned, right? Exactly. The rug things. Thanks again, Kath, for mentioning that.
Yeah.
All right.
Hey, you know what?
What?
You could just have the comic book pages laminated.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. A thick lamination. Yeah.
Right?
A really
Yep.
thick lamination.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But just that the lamination would be fine.
Nice and thick.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Right?
Yep. And then almost you could even get some if you want to go like I'm thinking cheap, but binder type from the wall.
Yeah.
You know, three eye hooks. Each one has like one of those bindings. And
Well, think about this. Is
Yeah.
lamination like can you have that? It's clear, but can you have it in color?
Yeah, you can get colored probably the film. The
That's all that
plastic
is?
that- it's
I don't know
just-
you
anything.
mean the
just plastic.
translucent?
it's just like
just
rolls
like
of
thin.
plastic that you feed through.
So if you just had white, so you could, you know, you would only need to use the adhesive vinyl for the cover and the back and the
Yeah.
insides. And outside of that, you could just have laminated white lamination and just print on top
Right.
of that.
Yeah.
oh yeah, they
On those
sell
poster
all sorts of
websites
stuff.
also you can get something laminated.
Yeah. Well, that would work fine. That would hold its weight. You would have to reinforce the binding still, but it wouldn't tear.
I've worked with lamination just working at the school. They've asked me to laminate certain things, and so we had like these industrial ones.
Yeah.
And it is thick. Like the different grades of
Really?
paper that you choose can get really thick. I mean,
What's that made out of? Is there like any sort of like
Acetate?
recyclable plastic that it's made out of? Like, is it
well, that would be
made out
cool.
of something that isn't like very environmentally?
I imagine it to be
disturbing?
extremely toxic.
Some of them are made
Well-
out of acetate.
Acetate.
No, some plastics are obviously like recycling. Like some
yeah.
plastics are recyclable.
Oh,
and
right.
other ones aren't.
Can they get to that translucence too? Is the question. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? If you are to use like a recyclable plastic, which would be excellent. I just remember the smell when you'd put it through those steaming rollers when you'd press something to laminate it.
Okay.
Yeah. Again, those were older. Those were probably from the 80s. So I don't think.
It seems very doable, and it's very affordable to get those map books. I looked at them on eBay. They're like $5, $6 for like a whole stack of them.
Cool. Well,
So,
maybe
we'll give it a
we'll
whirl.
start one. Yeah. That'd be neat.
That'd be cool.
All
right.
Yeah, that'd be good. What do you think, Kaylee?
Sorry, I'm looking at different laminates now.
Oh, just keep.
Okay.
Are there any that aren't translucent?
You can get like colored ones.
Colored ones that are colored but translucent, or
Or
colored
transparent,
like just?
even. You want transparent. You
Yeah,
want like completely.
I don't
clear.
want them clear.
Mm.
No,
Oh, okay.
I'm thinking you just get that
And print
and
on top
print
of
on
that.
top of that.
Well, in that case, you can just get really thin plexi. Right?
Yeah, you could, but
Oh,
like I
I
feel
didn't even
like
think about plexi.
I did think about plexi. I feel like plexi is
Weird.
I don't know. There's something about it where it gets scuffed up really quickly and easily. I've never
Yeah.
seen laminate really get scuffed. I don't know if I feel like it's a different type of plastic. Like plexi, like after just a little bit of time, especially after handling it,
Yeah.
like it gets really scratched up really
Kinda
quick.
it does. Yeah, it's true. That
You
is
know what I
true.
mean?
Yeah.
But I feel like laminate, for some reason, it almost never does. And it has like, just to the touch,
Yeah.
it's just a much nicer feel, isn't
Right.
it?
Right.
It's like got a soft, like
Oh yeah.
sort
Yeah, it
of
does. It does. It
feel
feels
to
nice. Yeah.
as opposed to this plexi. It's a little
Hard kind of thing.
warbly, like
They'll definitely squeak.
yeah,
Plexi squeaks. Yeah.
yeah. I don't like plexi. I don't like it at all.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan.
Well, yeah, maybe we'll start working on something, and looking into that. And
Yeah.
if we do, we'll show you. But until then, write down your ideas. Find a way to write them down or record them some way, because I'm sure you all have something good to offer.
Be creative.
Be creative.
Be creative.
Yeah,
It's good for your soul.
It is,
Mhm.
and it's and the more you do
And
it,
clear your head.
the more it'll clear your head. The more you do it too, the easier it is. Just coming up with ideas. And again, most of them, for me at least, most of them are real shite, but some of them are pretty decent,
Yeah.
and we have fun talking about.
You know what's interesting about having if you have even shitty ideas,
Mm-hmm.
if you see them through to the end,
Yeah.
you can learn something from them.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
I've had a
absolutely.
lot of shitty ideas. I've made a lot of shitty things that, though they were terrible, and I would never show anyone them.
You showed me they were really bad.
Yeah,
They're terrible. They were really bad.
You learn something from
You
them.
do, but then yet
Mhm.
you show me the next prototype or whatever it is, and amazing stuff.
Mm.
Yeah, that's how you learn. That's really good.
That's
Yeah. All right, kids.
it. All right.
Let's wrap it up.
Here we go.
Let's spill the beans.
Hanging out just another night of the week. Up to be more specific, it's a Tuesday Eve. Got some ideas that just might intrigue. You should come on by tonight. We're spilling the beans.